everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. My name is John from WebDev for You, here to help you build beautiful websites without code in Webflow. So for anyone who's new here, I do these live streams every Monday through Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Central, and we cover everything Webflow, from building layouts, style naming conventions, just working in Webflow in general. I also go over animations using custom scripts. Basically anything related to web design and development, I cover it, but instead of using code, we use Webflow. And I also provide support via the super chat function. So if you need help with a personal project, you can drop a super chat and I can take a look at your website and provide any insight and help with your site. So this week is going to be a very fun week. As per high request, or quite a few people have asked about it, we're going to go over the FinSuite ClientFirst system, and we're just going to take a look at the system and work with it, kind of see the nuances of it and try to use it for some builds. I've played with it a little bit today, and it does go quite a bit in depth, and we'll try to cover everything this week in the live streams, but there is a lot to it. I do recommend going to the FinSuite documentation for the ClientFirst system and watching all the videos to get a good understanding of how to use the system. So to me, it is just kind of a style naming convention system. And to me, it feels like it's based off the BEM model. So I think BEM model, CSS, and the block element modifier model, which is a naming convention standard for CSS class names. And yeah, if this is what you're kind of going for, if you're struggling with class naming conventions, this ClientFirst could work well for you. As far as like saying that it's for clients, I think it could work. I find it to be a bit of a stretch because I feel like a client would need to read the documentation and understand all of this to really utilize the system well. Because even as a developer, I struggled a little bit wrapping my mind around the different concepts. So, just as an example, I develop templates, and to me, the class names that I give my elements in the template are a bit easier to understand than some of the concepts here. I'm not saying one system is better than the other, but and this could be a great system to keep everything organized. But I do feel like a client would have to kind of understand this ClientFirst system to really utilize it. So just a little caveat there. That's my personal kind of opinion or thought on it. It's not as straightforward as a client just jumping in and understanding what all the class name means and how the site is structured. I think as a developer, you probably have to explain to the client that you use the system and then maybe reference them to this documentation so they understand everything about the class names. So without further ado, let's jump into it. I was just waiting for a few other folks to jump in. Hi Tazaware, hi Yair. Hopefully I'm pronouncing all these names right. Because sometimes I read it and I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. But anywho, let's jump right in. So we're going to build this kind of blog post using the ClientFirst system. Let me open up a new project in Webflow. And again, if you have any questions as I'm building, feel free to ask in the chat. I am placing my mic closer to my face so that you can hear me better and it's louder. I know I received a comment recently about the volume being too low. So hopefully me being closer to the mic helps with that. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do actually, we're gonna clone hey Dylan, what's up? We're gonna go over the ClientFirst system today. We're probably gonna be using it all week just to get an idea of how to use it. So the first thing I'll do is like we'll go to the ClientFirst docs. So if you haven't seen it, it's finsuite.com/ClientFirst, and then you can go into the documentation. You can click on resources, and one great thing that I really like that FinSuite did is they provided tons of resources on how to use the system. So they provided wireframes that you can just use, copy and paste. They provided quite a few templates, really nice templates using the system, and they have some live builds. And then they have, where is it? The Cloneable here. So I want to click on Cloneable. And then they have this blank Cloneable project, right? So this project is just blank, but it has all the classes from the ClientFirst system. So I'm going to click on Clone Project, and we're just going to clone it. And we're going to start with the ClientFirst system. So immediately, it kind of has a little bit of structure to it. We don't need this FinSuite style guide home text, so I can just delete that. But basically, if you watch Joe's videos, he talks about the structure, how you want to structure the site. And basically it starts with the page wrapper, and that's something I do for my sites as well. I always start with the page wrapper. It just makes it easy to copy and paste elements from page to page. Then we start with the main wrapper. So this is actually something I learned recently from watching Joe's video, which I wasn't aware of before, and I might start doing this. He wraps, he adds the page wrapper, and then he adds a main wrapper, and all the content goes in the main wrapper. And if we go to the element settings, this main wrapper has the tag main. And if we read it, it says it specifies the main content of a document. And Joe mentioned this is good for accessibility, so that's something I might start doing in my builds as well. So we start with the page wrapper, main wrapper. This global styles I think is specific to ClientFirst, and it's just a little bit of code, so I'm not going to really touch upon that. I can go ahead and open it, and if we look at it, it's just some code here, maybe to reset some of the default Webflow styling. But yeah, just added some code, and he writes down what each means. So maybe this is necessary for the ClientFirst system, so he just added that in there. Okay, so we have the main wrapper, and let's go into the documentation actually, because he goes over like how to start with the structure. So we have the page wrapper, the nav component, the main wrapper, then we have a section. So yeah, let's go back into this blank project, and it's right here. So let's look at the classes actually first. So if we click on these droplets here, we can look at the classes, and here are all the classes from the ClientFirst system. So we have access to all of these, and we can use them for our build. We don't have to come up with our own classes. We can just use these preset classes. So if we go into the documentation, Joe has it here. So the next thing we want to add is the section. So I'm going to build, this blog post here, inspired by, or kind of taken from this Figma file, this wireframe. And and we're going to use the ClientFirst system. Hi, Abhinav, welcome. No worries. We're using the ClientFirst system, and we're going to build out this kind of blog page here. So yeah, let me go back in here. All right, so we have the main wrapper. The next thing we want to add is the section. So I'll hit Command K for quick find. I'll add a section, and for this you can name it anything, but you do want to name it to look like this. So section dash section identifier. So I'm going to call it section dash blog posts, something like that. Yeah, blog posts. Okay, cool. So we have the section. Next, let's look at I'm going to put this over here, the page padding. So this is an interesting concept that I never quite used, and this might be the only part that feels a bit tedious about the system, because I'm so used to adding padding and margin to the specific elements. I'm not used to adding padding and margin to an individual div block. It's an interesting way to approach web design that I've never quite seen before. So let's go ahead and try it. So what Joe does or what the first system does, is it adds a div block, right? So in the section, we have the div block, and this div block controls the padding. So to this div block, we can give it the padding class. So if we go back to the ClientFirst system and we go to, let's say, sizing, I think it's right down here, spacing, we want the padding. So if we go to padding, we can, add padding to the top, bottom, left, right, horizontal, or we can just go down here and say I want padding large, and it would add 48 pixels of padding to the section, or I do want to add some padding to the section. So we're going to do padding large. Let's do, and it's going to add 48 pixels or 3 rem, and it tells you all the sizes here on the different devices. So I'll go back in here, and to this div block, I'll say padding. And then as soon as you type in padding, you get access to all these different styles. So we can see we have padding, left, large, huge, all these different paddings here. So I'm going to say padding large, and it adds 3 rems around this div block. So now in this div block, I can add another div block. So going into ClientFirst, we have the padding, and then we want to add the container. All right, so that's one of the main points. When you're adding padding or margin, you're actually adding a div block and then adding elements inside of that div block, and then you're applying margin to the parent div. So it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure how much I like it yet, but that's why we're going to spend some time with it this week, see if it grows on me, and to see if I find it useful. Okay, so we have the padding large. Now we want to add the container. For the container, I'm just going to add a div block. We'll call it container. So I'm going to say container, and we're going to do container large. Okay, so let's go into the documentation. And for container, there are a few different containers. So we have container large, which is 80 rem, container medium is 64 rem, and container small is 48 rem. And now might be a good time to segue into the sizes. So rem is just, he kind of goes over what he uses rem, why he uses rem, and it's basically, by default in ClientFirst, we use a 16 pixel HTML font size. Using a 16 pixel HTML font size will create a clean and organized pixel to rem conversion using our 4-point system. Okay. So below is a list of accepted pixel values with their converted rem measurement. Anytime you want to use a pixel value inside Webflow, use the converted rem value. We convert pixel to rem by dividing the pixel value by 16. Okay, we are using rem on typography, margins, width, and anything else that uses pixel value. So if we have a padding of 3 rem, it's 48 pixels. And for the container, if we say 80 rems, right here, it's a 1280 pixel container. So I like to use 1440. I think a lot of users are using large screens now. Let me see if we have access to that. So let's say container. No, we don't have. So the largest one is 80 rem, which is 1280. So for the sake of this system, let's just stick with 1280, but we could change it here if we wanted to. I could say 90 rem, and that would change it to, let's just do that. 90 rem changes it to 1440 right here. Okay. So by changing it for this class, I can go ahead and reuse this class for all of my containers. So now container large for my specific build is 90 rem instead of 1280. Just a nice thing to note there. So padding large, we have the padding, then we have the container. Okay, cool. So container large, padding large. Actually, just to keep it simple, let me just leave it at 80 rem. Okay, so we're gonna stick to the system at first. I want to utilize the system how it initially comes out of the box, just so we don't confuse anything. Okay, so let's go back to classes. All right, so back to the structure. So we added the container. Okay, so now we can add our components and elements. So this is where we can get creative and add our own elements. So for the collection list, right? So I wanted to see, and I looked at a few sites, you know, just to kind of get an idea for how it was built. And basically any components, they give you kind of a class naming convention on how to name different components. So if I go in here, let's see if they have kind of a description of it. Custom classes, it would be under custom classes. Okay, structure, components. Let's look at this. Okay, yeah, so here they kind of go over how to name your components, right? So there's no classes for the components, but we can still use the client first system to organize everything. So what I want to add here is a collection list. Okay, so in the container I want to add a collection list. So I'll hold down Command K and I'll add a collection list. And actually before I do that, we want to build a collection. So let me go into the CMS. We want to add a collection list. I'm going to say blog post, create collection, and we're going to add 5 items. Hey Omkar. Yeah, we're learning how to use the client first system by FinSuite. We're just kind of going over it. So we're going to be covering it all week this week, just like we covered the wizardry method a few weeks ago. We're going to cover the client first system and just kind of figure out the nuances of it and kind of use it in a build to make sure that we know how to use it and to see if it's something we want to use in our projects moving forward. All right, so I'm just going to replace some of these images with my own images that I like. And I'll save it here. Hey Olga. And save changes. Just replacing a few images here. Whoop. Okay, let's try that again. All right, let's go to this one, replace, and save. Just replacing a few images. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, Webflow is being a little weird. Or is it my computer? Might be my computer. All right, we'll leave the images as is for now. I'm not gonna spend too much time replacing images. Okay. All right, so we have our container large. Now I'm gonna hit Command K and I'm gonna add a collection list. Dylan with the super chat, dope. Hey Marcin, hello. We're going over the client first FinSuite system. Oops. Hey Arpad, Arpad, welcome. Hello. Yeah, so we're building this blog post section or page using the client first system. So for anyone who's curious about what we're covering today, we're using the FinSuite client first to kind of to use the system and try to apply it to our own builds. All right, cool. So, all right, so I added the collection list, and this is where it can get interesting because with the collection list, you have basically 3 components that make up a collection list. You have the wrapper, the collection list, and the collection item. So the way that I named all of this, kind of respecting the client first model, is I called it blog-cards _ collection list wrapper. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, so trying to kind of follow this way of naming things. So like, for example, a team component on the company page called company-team and then underscore, and then you give it like more properties to the name. And I feel like that's very BEM model, for sure. So yeah, I recommend, to everyone watching, like I'm going to cover things like a quick overview, but I highly recommend watching all of Joe's videos because he explains everything in much more detail. But hopefully this can give you like an introduction to the ClientFirst system. But this is something to me that you would kind of want to watch the videos, read the documentation, so that if you do decide to use the system, it makes a lot of sense to you and it doesn't complicate your builds, because that's the last thing you want to do, is make your builds more complicated. I already have my own kind of naming convention that I like using, so I'm not sure I'll be sticking to this model, but it's always a good idea and a good practice to explore how different companies, how different users use Webflow or how they name their classes, because it could give you your own ideas on how you want to approach building a website. And it's also great, like the more we as web designers and developers can get on the same page, the easier it will be for everyone learning web development. So anything that brings uniformity and organization to anything, I feel is good. And that's why I want to cover this model today, or this ClientFirst system. Went a little bit abstract there, but hopefully that made sense. Okay, so for the collection list, I'm just going through and giving it the, or you know what, I'm going to give it, because this page to me is the blog post page, so I'm going to give it blog posts, and then I'm going to say underscore collection list. That feels a bit better because we want to use kind of the page we're on. So I'm going to say, instead of blog cards, I'm going to say blog posts collection list wrapper. Yeah, this should be a guideline, not something carved in stone. It's a jumping off point for sure. Definitely. So yeah, in the beginning for this component, I'm just going to say blog posts underscore collection item. Okay. So yeah, just to get some organization there. So we have a blog post page, and then we give more description by kind of describing the element. So let's see what I did here. So as you can see here, this is a kind of a sample site that they provide. So everything starts with home header, right? If it's in the header section, we have home dash header and then underscore and then another descriptive term for the element. Okay, hopefully that made sense. So here we have blog post underscore and then it's the collection list wrapper, blog post underscore collection list, blog post underscore collection item. All right, so in the collection item, and actually I'm going to limit, let's see, for the blog list, oh yeah, we want to grab a collection list. So I'm going to say blog posts. And in the element settings, I'm going to filter, or I'm going to limit the items and only show one, right? And we're going to start at one. Because if we look at the project, this is one collection list, and then this is another collection list, and they're styled differently. Here I want to show 3, and here I just want to show 1. Okay. All right, cool. So then in the blog post collection item, I'm going to add a div block, and I'm going to call this, let's see, is that how I did it here? Yes, okay. Div blocks, I'm going to call this blog dash post underscore content left. And I'm going to add another div block, and I'm going to say blog dash posts underscore content right. And then for the blog post collection item, I'm going to set it to flex. Horizontal is fine. Align stretch, justify start. And then for the content left, I'm going to grow if possible. And the same for the right, I'm going to say grow if possible. And this gives us 2 equal left and right sections. So on the blog post content left, I'm going to add an image. And I'm going to get the image from the main image, and that's it. So we have the image. I always like setting the width to 100% to make sure that the image doesn't shrink. And I'll give this image the class name blog posts underscore image. Okay, and then on the right side, we're going to add the content. Okay, so let's go back into the structure here. Let's just revise, make sure we're following everything. So yeah, all that's good. So here's where it starts to get even more interesting, right? Because if we look at this site here, this right side has some padding to it, right? It doesn't hit exactly the left of the image. I added some padding to this right side. And I didn't just do that by selecting the content right here and adding some padding, right? I could do that and add some padding this way by holding shift. The way the ClientFirst system works is you want to add a div block, and this div block controls the padding. So to that div block, we add the class name padding, and here you can select what type of padding you want. You can say large, medium, small. You can apply padding just to the top, the bottom, the left, and there's a few custom paddings here. For this, I'm going to say padding large, and that adds 3 rems around this div block. So now inside of the padding large, I want to add the content. So here I'm going to add a heading, and I'm going to give it the H3 heading, and that looks good. And we can get the text from the collection list, so get text from the name, which it didn't do. Okay, that's interesting. What do you think about building these blocks in advance and put them on a style guide page so you have your classes ready to use when building pages? Maybe it'd be a help on more complex projects. Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna mention that Arpad. It's a clonable, so I don't know if I covered this earlier, so I'll just cover it again. So if you just go to the FinSuite ClientFirst and go to the resources and click here on the clonable, you can clone the project and have all the class names that FinSuite provides for their ClientFirst system. And they also have a ton of other resources like, different templates and different wireframes that you can use and copy and paste. But yeah, they provide a lot of resources for this system. So you don't have to go in and kind of rebuild everything. You just have all the class names ready to go. So in the project, if we look at the class names, these are all preset. All of these, I didn't add any of these to the project. They came with the Cloneable project. Okay, so we're having a little hiccup here where the heading is it's not grabbing the name. Oh, there we go. Okay, 20 minutes about web design. That's great. All right, so we have the heading, and then I want to add a paragraph. Okay, and get the text from the post summary. And then I want to add a button. Okay, button. All right, so we have all that, and this is where it becomes a bit more work to me. So let me see if I did this for my project here. Yeah, so anytime you want to add margin to an element, so like I want to add margin to the bottom of this heading. So rather than giving this heading a specific margin, what I would do is add a div block, place it here, and place the heading inside of this div block, and then give this div block the class name margin, let's say margin medium, right? So it applies margin of 2 rem to every side, and then I can say margin dash bottom. So it only applies the margin to the bottom. So this applies 2 rems to the bottom here, and yeah, and I guess that's okay. 2 rems almost seems like too much, so I would go maybe back into the margin medium. I would remove these. I would try margin small, which is 1 rem. That looks a little bit better. And then I would say margin bottom. Yeah, that looks a bit better. And then for the paragraph, so I would add a div block and also add, place this paragraph inside this div block and say margin small, and then just apply it to the bottom, margin bottom. Okay. Cool. So as you can see, it's kind of like, that's how we work with it. Oh, thank you, Abhinav. Appreciate it. So Abhinav writes, "Hi John, I really love your content. I started learning Webflow recently. Concept Studio. I would like to show you how to make such. I would like you to show how to make such menu, how to make such random layouts in Webflow." Perfect. We will cover that today, definitely. So once we get through this build, I'll start looking at this menu here. Okay, it's a very nice menu. All right, looks pretty complicated, or not complicated, but like there's a lot to it. So we will get to that, and if we don't get through all of it today, we'll cover more of it tomorrow. All right, so yeah, so that's how we add margin and padding using the ClientFirst system. You basically add your elements inside of a div block, and then you apply the margin and padding to the parent div block. Okay, then we have this button, so I can give it the class button. And for buttons, I can give my own styling to it. You know, it's not set in stone, but basically, you know, they do have a preset button class, and I can just grab the color and change it here. For the background, something like that. Use that color. Okay. For the content right, or this, yeah, this is where I get a little bit, yeah, for the content right, I'm going to set it to flex, vertical, no, padding large, yeah, I want this to be 100%. How did I do that here? Okay. Oh, okay, I know what I did. Content right, content left, collection item. So let's see, blog post collection item, flex vertical, content right. Okay, I do want that right to be 100%. 3 rems, collection item, collection list. Let's see here. Content right, collection item. Content left. So I think it would be Anywho, yeah, we'll come back to that. All right, so to this image, I'm also going to add 30 pixels of radius, make it round. And so yeah, Abhinav wrote, "Sherman, I was so scared of Webflow, but your videos made me to dive in more. And if time permits, you can check the Concept Studio call to actions, where cursor changes to magnetic cursor and becomes yes." Cool. Yeah, we'll cover that for sure. Let's see, padding large. This should be 100%, but I don't want to mess with these classes here. And why isn't this becoming 100%? All right, yeah, we'll come back to that. Okay, so yeah, that's basically all I wanted to cover today with ClientFirst. We're just starting out with it. I am going to duplicate this collection list, and let's see, collection list, and I'm gonna add my own margin to the bottom. Can you hear? Yeah, turn up your audio. Can you hear me now, Optum? I might have stepped back from the mic a bit. 3 rem, okay. How's my audio, everyone? Audio visual check. I might have to get a new sound card to help with the volume. Okay, so here for this collection list, I'm just gonna grab this and go to element settings. I'm gonna show 3 and I'm gonna start at 2. Okay, so we have 3 blog posts. And then for the collection list, let's see here. Your audio is low. Okay, so yeah, I might have to work on that, everyone. My apologies. And I should be using, let me check what I'm using here for my audio. Yeah, I'm using the right mic. All right, I'll work on that, everyone, because I know low volume isn't great. So let's see how I did it here. Yeah, okay. So for these, we want to go to the collection list. I'm going to give it a combo class of second. So this is going to be the second collection list. Kavita, we're just going over the ClientFirst system, just getting started with it, and just using it and working with it in Webflow. And we're using the ClientFirst Cloneable to kind of mess around with it. So for this collection list, I'm going to set it to flex, horizontal, align stretch, and justify start. Okay, then I'm going to go to the collection item, and I'm going to say second, give it a combo class of second, set it to vertical, grow if possible. And then we'll go to the blog post content right. And hold on 1 second. Under the blog post content left, and I'm going to say second combo class, and for the sizing I'm going to say not shrink if needed, or not grow if possible. I'm going to say shrink if needed to get all this looking good. And for the blog content right, padding large. Yeah, that makes it difficult for me to, I'm not used to working with, let me set it to 100%, would that work? No. Yeah, actually that would, 100% blog content right, and grow if possible. Grow blog content right, vertical. Shoot. See, I want to set this padding large to 100%, but let's see here, vertical, grow if possible, padding large, content. Let me reference this again. I'm just talking low, so it's not my audio. I'm just talking a bit low. Oh, so I did, oh, I see what I did. So let me go back actually real quick. Yeah, okay, this is exactly what I thought I needed to do. So for the padding large here, what I did is I gave it the combo class of flex, and then I set it to 100%, and I changed the flex setting to flex, vertical, and space between. Okay, there should definitely be more text here, but I guess there isn't. Yeah, and that's basically it. Padding large, blog post content right. Yeah, and I think I added, let's see, content right, content left, content right, padding. Collection list. Okay. All right, cool. So for the content left here, I want to add some margin to the left and the right. So I want to say margin, let's do margin small. Margin small. Oh, and that worked. But I don't need the top and the bottom. So I'm saying margin small and then margin horizontal. Okay. Cool. So yeah, that's basically it. And for this padding large, I'm going to set it to align left so this button isn't so big. Yeah, and I think that's it. That's all I'm going to cover for now. And I'm going to change this to flex, give it flex as well. Actually, no, we don't want to do that there. For the content right, I'm just going to justify center. Cool. Hopefully that made sense. I'll just recap and then we'll move on to another topic. We'll cover more of ClientFirst tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to mention, like all the global tags are styled. So they're using the REM system for the headings, you know, the H3 headings, the main headings. Oh, I didn't add the main heading at the top. So let me do that now. Heading. And we'll just place it at the top. And we'll say latest news. And I'll place this heading in a div block. And we'll say margin medium, and then margin bottom. Okay, so we have that. And then I'm just gonna install the sign font because I really like it, and we'll just style some of the global classes. But yeah, that's an intro to ClientFirst. And yeah, let me go to fonts. Let's go to sign. All right. Yes, 16 pixels is standard for REM. And that's what FinSuite is using here. So sign. So as you notice, I'm styling the all H3 headings. Anytime you want to change the headings, you want to change it on the global tag. And then here we'll change it to sign. So all of them changed, and great. So yeah, and I can say learn more here for the button, learn more. Same for these, learn more. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and publish. Are you able to create your own, for example, margin bottom, margin custom? Yes. So let's look at that, Marcin. But we'll quickly look at the site here, and you know, I'd probably add more margin here. And maybe for this, like we could use that margin custom. So blog post list wrapper. Let's see. Actually, I added margin here to the bottom. I would use 4 rems. But you could add a custom margin. So let's see. Where did I add? So margin bottom. Yeah, so like for this heading, for example, so we say margin medium, I could remove the bottom and I could say margin. So here, FinSuite allowed 3 different custom margins. So margin dash custom 1. And we can see it has 2 rems of margin, but you can just adjust it to your own custom margin and then use this custom class for it. Okay. So it's essentially I could use that custom class and then have it be the bottom. So I could say 0, 0, and 0. And that would be margin bottom. Okay. But I'll just use their specific margin bottom here. Cool. So yeah, that's a quick intro to the FinSuite ClientFirst system. Again, let me go just preview. Yeah, I would probably add more margin to some of this, which I think I did in this one. Yeah, this one looks like a bit better. Oh, and let me change the font here for this button. the sign. Yeah, changes all the buttons. But yeah, if you're interested in the ClientFirst system, Joe from FinSuite provides tons of videos. But yeah, we'll cover it in these live streams just so we can get some real life examples of it and all that good stuff. So everything does change for tablet and mobile. You know, I'd make this responsive for tablet and mobile. Right now it isn't, but we'd get into that in another kind of, if we had more time today. But yeah, that's basically it for ClientFirst. Quick little intro. He does go over typography, how the typography is set and what you can use for that. Text color, rich text, spacing. We use a bit of spacing today. We use some padding. You know, and they cover a bit more here. Some other useful global classes or tags that they have, and some max width classes here as well, and some icon classes and some other useful classes like z-index and other elements here, and some colors and different components and layouts. So the sizes are based off the 4-point system and using rem and 16 pixels for the HTML font size. And I do think they added the HTML font size via custom code. Let me check. No, just this custom code here. Let me look at the custom code on the body or on the page. No, how about this here, this global styles? No. Yeah, so I guess it's just using the HTML 16 pixel base font. They do have a style guide here with the Cloneable, so you can take a look at that. Yeah, and for the color palettes, you can go in and give, you can style your own color palette here. So that's cool. All right. So yeah, that is ClientFirst. Tons of videos, definitely check it out. We'll cover it some more tomorrow. Kind of continue building. We might continue building this site tomorrow, or the site that I was working on. Highly recommend checking out the resources. You know, they provide a lot of great templates for you to look at and see what, you know, how they use the ClientFirst system. Okay. And if you want to start off with a blank project, but with all the classes, just click on Cloneable here and just clone this project, and you'll have all those class names in the style guide in your project. Very cool. So yeah, that was it for the ClientFirst. Let's look at the super chat from Abhinav, and I'm going to close some tabs here. I'm not going to make this project clonable because it's a kind of a simple build. Or actually, I might. We'll see. Cool. Yeah, and you can review how they built the site. So you can see they put their margins and parent elements and things like that. But yeah, we covered that quite a bit. All right. So let's go into the super chat. So he asks, I would like to show how to make such a menu, how to make such random layouts in Webflow. Okay. So yeah, this is a very cool build. I almost want to use the wizardry method for this. Let's look at the responsiveness of it. Yeah, it's really unusual, you know, how it's built. This feels like a wizardry method type of build. So let's see. Let's look at the menu. Okay, so Abhinav, I probably won't start building this today. I'm just going to kind of see how I would approach this specific build. And let's see. Okay, so we would most likely have to use clip path for this. Yeah, this feels like clip path. Let's see. SVG. Okay, they're using an SVG here. Yeah, this feels like clip path. So what I would probably start with is going to this website called bennettfeely.com/clippy. And then I would try to create these clip paths. So this is something you might have to do in Illustrator, but let's see if we can try to achieve those shapes. Let's see. So we have like a bit of a triangle. We have this. Let's see if we can do custom polygon. Okay. Click to add points. We'll add one here, here, and here. Yeah, that's true, Arpad. He makes a great point. I'll try my best to give you some tips on how you could approach this. But as far as like building this entire thing, maybe we can do it. I'll just have to see how much time it's gonna take and if it's feasible in a live stream. But yeah, it might be. Yeah. So that's where I would start, just kind of, creating the shapes in something like this or Illustrator, creating the shapes in Illustrator and yeah, I'll do that. What I'll do is like for tomorrow's live stream, I'll have a shape ready and then we'll use GreenSock to animate the shape coming in. Like we'll open a menu and the shape will come in and reveal the menu text. So I'll do a simplified version of this just to give you an idea of how this might be possible, but I won't go through and build every one here. So we'll do that tomorrow because we're running out of time in this live stream. And Dylan, yeah, I saw the super chat, Dylan, but I didn't see a question. So if you could rewrite the question, that would be helpful. And Abhinav also wrote, yeah, how to make such random layouts in Webflow. So yeah, I'll showcase the wizardry method tomorrow because I think the wizardry method would help you here, where you can make maybe the text can be responsive and scalable. And this would just be, either grid or flexbox, creating this type of layout you could do with grid or flexbox. And I can show that tomorrow too. This is just, let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure how they did this. I could probably showcase that. It seems like they just set the text to bold on hover. This little mouse, I think we can do. I'll have to kind of research that. This is just an animated SVG. But yeah, there's quite a bit to this. This seems like a script, just a regular script to change the text like that. So we'll cover a few things, Abhinav, just to, because I know you provided the super chat. So I'll showcase how to do Clippy and reveal some text. If you notice though too, like these animations can get a bit slow. I don't know if I'd recommend such a animation heavy site, even though it is pretty cool, but there's quite a bit to it. This is probably just a GIF. Yeah, let's see. This is just a GIF. It's an animated SVG. Yeah. Cool. So maybe they use the program to animate these SVGs. Or even After Effects, maybe. This could be a Lottie animation. So this is something you could build in Illustrator, and it's just like adding movement to these shapes and making them do some wonky stuff like that. So yeah, I would do this in Illustrator or in After Effects, and then Webflow supports Lottie, so I would add that via Lottie. And yeah, these are just some simple, some of these might be GIFs in here, simple images. Let's go to the other pages. Yeah, I could probably show this flip card effect. That might be kind of cool. Yeah, cool. So come back tomorrow, Abhinav, and I'll cover a few points here, and that could be a fun live stream tomorrow. And I'll touch upon the ClientFirst system just a little bit, not as much as I did today, but I'll cover a few more points from the ClientFirst system. So let's see here. Call to action at least. So let's see. Which call to action? Oh, is it the yes? We are studio concept, what we do. We have more here. Yeah, if you can let me know which call to action. Oh, this CTA. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that call to action. It kind of was janky, so I don't know if I'll cover that, but yeah. How big is big for Lottie? Yeah, I'd probably keep it under 5 megabytes or under 3 megabytes. Any Lottie file. Cool. So Dylan sent a site. Let's see, Gmail. Let me check this out. Have the product info add to the cart section. All right, Dylan, so we'll cover this tomorrow as well because we're running out of time today. But yeah, this site is a bit busy, Abhinav, but I do want to showcase how to do a few things here. It has some interesting things going on like this. Cool. But yeah, I'm going to end the super chat because we're running into 1 o'clock. The yes is just a shaking animation. Oh, this, I see. Okay. Yeah, if you want me to just cover this, I can definitely do that tomorrow. Yeah, that's not a problem. Not a problem. This isn't bad. I mean, that's kind of cool. Yeah, let's do that tomorrow. This will be fun and kind of simple, actually. Let me just bookmark this so we have it. Yeah, we'll cover that tomorrow for sure. This will be a mouse move in viewport interaction, and we can just apply it to a section and have the yes move with the mouse. Awesome. Very cool. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Dylan, we'll look at your site tomorrow as well. And yeah, Abhinav, I'll try to cover a few more concepts, but if I did cover a lot of concepts here, it probably would take the whole live stream. So maybe we'll just start with this tomorrow and I'll cover that, and then we'll look at Dylan's site, and we'll continue to cover the FinSuite ClientFirst system. And if you found what I talked about today interesting, definitely check out the ClientFirst documentation. I'll leave it here in the chat. And there's videos, documentation, and just go through. It is a lot of content to read, and that's why I sometimes think how much is it really geared towards clients, because I feel like a client would have to read all this. But if it helps the designer and client get on the same page and this documentation provides that, I do think it's a helpful resource. And FinSuite did an amazing job providing information on how to use it and providing resources like templates, clonables, wireframes to make it as easy as possible to use. I know naming things and using classes at first in Webflow can be a bit daunting, and sometimes things can get a bit disorganized if you don't have a meaningful or a proper class naming convention. So it's cool that FinSuite did provide this. And I do feel like it's closely tied to the BEM model, which I think a lot of developers might use. All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great rest of the day. Yeah, menu and hover would be great. Awesome. Will do, Abhinav, for sure. So we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see Dylan tomorrow. I'll cover your super chat as well. Thanks for joining. And yeah, see ya. Peace.